You have it. The RNC convention is underway. That was the chairman, Michael Whatley. And we're excited to be here in Milwaukee. You got your whole five here. Judge Jeanine Pirro, Jessica Tarlov, back from her wonderful maternity leave. And we're so glad that you're here. And then there's Jesse Waters. Just kidding. Jesse Waters and Greg Gutfeld. So great to be here. JD Vance announced as the vice presidential pick. Not a huge surprise since that had been out there for a while. We do expect him to speak at some point. We will keep you updated on as to when that will be. So 4 of us at this table have had a chance to tell you our thoughts about the RNC kickoff, the failed assassination attempt of President Trump, and the VP pick. But Greg Gutfeld has yet to give you a bit of his wisdom and his wit. So I turn it over to you, sir, for give you the floor here in Milwaukee.
Well, I missed the whole thing. So many things. This has probably been, the last 2 days have probably been the most unbelievable, surreal moment in political history. I don't think there's any way to oversell it. I do find it funny watching people who call Trump a threat to democracy now wishing for his speedy recovery. I mean, did people who fought Hitler wish him a speedy recovery after they attempted to kill him? No. Or could it be that they never really meant it to begin with and it was just words, stuff you say to win? I almost respect the dogs not barking, the Joy Reids, Madonna, Cher. Hollywood, for once, is biting its collective lip. Maybe they realized they went too far to walk it back with a Hallmark greeting card. But I think the Dems never understood the statistical possibility of demonic messaging, right? Say this stuff repetitively to 300 million people, there's going to be a few nutcases that act on it. My feeling is the left doesn't know it goes too far until they go too far. It's always been about abolishing boundaries, from borders to gender to the nature of a crime to rhetoric. Without any normal stopgap of moderate Democrats, they just keep going until you see what happens on Saturday. The fact that Joy Reid protected her tweets, going underground, morning breath taken off the air. It's an admission that the boundaries were crossed. And even they realize that they themselves cannot be trusted. This is the drunk who actually hands over their own car keys. And I think what we're seeing is what happens when you conflate boundaries with losing. It's not losing to surrender to limits. It's being a conscious human saying, maybe we went too far. I'm looking for something that I'm just going to say. There was something you said, I don't know when it was, a couple of days ago. Jesse said, why can't you just not win this one?
Yeah.
Why do you have to win everything? And I go back to that thought because it's like, for Republicans, politics on the list of things that matter are below family, work, religion, NASCAR, hunting, fishing. But for a lot of Democrats, it's personal. It's their life. And so they don't have any boundaries when it comes to the things that they say. I'm not saying that they caused this thing. What I'm saying is that it's assassination by amplification. You don't call somebody Hitler in the hopes that they don't get killed, right? You don't demonize somebody hoping that they get flowers sent to them. You do this because you have a desire to win it at all costs. And now you've seen what happens. And now you have people saying, you know what, maybe we should dial it back a bit. I think it was on The View. They said we need to lower the temperature. And they are nothing more than arsonists who aren't aware of the actual work they've done. They've raised the temperature every day. A threat to democracy, a threat to democracy. I don't know what's worse, believing that Trump was a threat to democracy or saying he was and knowing you were lying and not understanding what you did.
Right.
So that's my thought.
Can I just follow with one thing? We're going to get everybody at the table in here. I was wanting to ask you about MSNBC's decision to pull Morning Joe. I mean, this is the president's show that he watches every morning. So he has a big primetime address. And then the next morning, his big show isn't on because, presumably, because somebody told CNN they felt like either the panel couldn't be trusted.
It's an admission of guilt. That's what it is. If they take, let's say take anything like January 6th, for example. Nobody was taken off of Fox because we aren't guilty. We are here to talk about what happened. They understood that they have people like Joy Reid. Why did she lock her tweets down? Is she cleaning up her media footprint? MSNBC must understand that where they are in this game, that they let it here. Yeah. And I mean, to me, it's like either you double down on Trump as Hitler or you go quiet. Either way, you're guilty.
And also, you can't just go quiet for a week,
yes.
I would assume. All right, so we did have big news today. President Trump announced his VP pick. Jesse, it is the senator from Ohio, the junior senator, JD Vance. He won in 2022. So he's been a senator just for a couple of years. Kind of reminds me of Barack Obama.
Yeah, exactly like Barack Obama.
That just occurred to me. So as soon as I said it, Jessica was like, oh, yeah, right. A few years.
Well, first of all, Jessica, it's good to have you back around the table.
Thank you.
You were so missed, and you just happened to be pregnant at the perfect time and deliver this baby when you missed the Trump trial and Biden's meltdown, the debate, and the attempted assassination.
We have good fertility mojo.
Great timing, Jessica. All right, so Vance is good. I like him. They like him because he's great on television. He is composed, and he'll be calm when he prosecutes Kamala. We call her Laffin, Laffin'. And he's great on these mainstream media shows. He's just very moderate and then hits you in the face eloquently. But his biography's stunning. His biography, he's a poor kid from a steel town in Ohio. His dad wasn't there. His mom was an addict, raised by his grandmother in one of these towns that was hollowed out by these dumb trade deals. He's kind of has the biography of populism. And he goes and joins the Marines, and then he comes back, goes to the Ohio State, and then Yale, which was my safety school. and then becomes this brilliant author and also a venture capitalist, but he's not a corporate Republican. He's for the American worker, and that really distinguishes him from a lot of the older Republicans. And then his age obviously distinguishes him. I think he's younger than Jessica. She pointed that out in the green room. And she's not upset about it, but ideologically, he's America first. Janine touched on it last week. He doesn't want to get entangled with these alliances. He's for strong borders, strong tariffs, and just has a very nice family structure. And he'll be a great future leader in the party, but he's not being anointed. He's not going to be, Trump's not saying you're going to take the MAGA torch and run with it. He's going to have to work for the nomination in 28, and he probably will do a good job.
Judge, can you give us a sense of President Trump's frame of mind? We're 48 hours since the assassination attempt. He is here in Milwaukee. I don't know exactly when we're going to hear from him, but we do know that he gave a pretty remarkable interview, and that was ran in the New York Post, in which he said, I have been given a chance to unite. What do you think?
Well, I've spoken to him a couple of times in those 48 hours. And, it's amazing. It's just been 48 hours since he was knocked down by a shot in that iconic moment where his fist is up, he's down with the American flag in the background. And it shows that, and I believe that will be a statue one day. I mean, I don't think it's so iconic. It's just so telling of the moment. But the fact that he made a decision to get up, he even said he wanted to continue the speech. And he talked about being defiant in the face of wickedness, and that he would continue to go forward, continue with the Republican National Convention, announce the vice presidential candidate. He feels that there was a hand of God involved. He does believe that there was divine intervention here. And I think that in picking JD Vance, Donald Trump is feeling bullish. I think that, there was those who said, you have to pick a woman, you have to pick a minority, you have to pick someone from a swing state. Well, J.D. Vance is from Ohio. I think Trump is 10 points up in Ohio. But J.D. Vance's story is a story of America. I mean, Jesse made it clear. I mean, he came from next to nothing with a mother who had a lot of problems. And he went to Yale, and he went into the Marines after 9/11. He's got 3 young kids. He's married to a woman who's an attorney. And it tells me that it's MAGA now and MAGA in the future. And that's what Donald Trump is interested in. He loves this country. He believes that J.D. Vance's policies are now aligned with his, and so he's comfortable with it. He's comfortable with a former Iraq veteran. And I think that this is a great pick for him. And I can't wait to see the Vance-Kamala debate.
Oh, yes. Popcorn and milk duds. We are going to be there for that. Jessica, Jake Tapper. Axios, yes, sorry, not Jake Tapper. He tweeted it. but Axios said that a senior House Democrat tells them, we've all resigned ourselves to a second Trump presidency. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said, if you're a senior Democrat that feels that way, you should absolutely retire and make space for true leadership. Where do you sit? Or your thoughts on all that?
Well, I sit with AOC on that, and I don't think that that reporting is accurate. And you know that there was a big piece in Politico today about Nancy Pelosi working the phones. She is out there. She thinks what's best is that Joe Biden doesn't stay on the top of the ticket if this reporting is correct. And she wants to make sure that they move ahead with that. And she doesn't want to lose the House. That's her legacy there, too. Her and Hakeem Jeffries, who she's worked side by side with. And we want to hold on to the Senate as well. We think with just a 3-seat margin that we could take back the House realistically. So I don't know. Axios has had a lot of really good reporting on the back and forth on all of this, but that doesn't ring true to me. I haven't spoken to one Democrat who doesn't think that we've got to do everything we possibly can to save the top of the ticket and all the way down. In terms of the JD Vance pick, this is what Democrats wanted, for him to pick JD Vance. JD Vance is, a security blanket with a beard for Donald Trump. And I know the beard was a big point of contention, and I'm glad that he's willing to give the facial hair a chance there. He has exactly the same base as Donald Trump. It doesn't expand the map. He was going to win Ohio anyway. His policies are the same: protectionist, America first, anti-NATO, throw Ukraine to the wolves. He's got a great backstory for sure. I read Hillbilly Elegy like every good liberal and really enjoyed it. The movie was not as good as the book.
Never is?
Yeah, probably never. What the election was going to be about, it's still about. And when I saw Glenn Youngkin come out today and the reception was so booming to him, I thought, oh, is this happening? Like, that would be really bad. Not necessarily just about putting Virginia in play, and I know it's close there, but just looking forward, Nikki Haley's going to be here. I said, did Trump really have a moment with God or come to Jesus over the weekend where he said, it should be Nikki Haley or Glenn Youngkin, who's someone who gets me those never Trumpers? But he didn't do that. He went with instinct, and he went with the pit bull. And I said this earlier. I was talking to Martha about it. Donald Trump wants to strike this uniting tone, and he talked about that in his interview. JD Vance was the first person to blame Joe Biden and the Democrats for what happened to him. So maybe they'll just do this as a twofer, right? Donald Trump goes this way, and then JD Vance zags that way and says the thing that Donald Trump is really thinking, but he thinks isn't presidential enough.
Well, I would just add one comment here is that I don't think President Trump needed a vice presidential pick that would help expand the map, because Trump himself is expanding the map. Because now we're looking at New Hampshire, Minnesota, Virginia, states that the Democrats had won before.
I forgot to add, and it's my favorite topic, Greg, abortion. So
I was waiting for that.
I just, I'm a new mom, so I don't want to bring it up right away. But really bad for JD Vance. And what's going on in Ohio, you're going to hear a lot about that story again, about that 10-year-old who was raped and had to go to Indiana to get health care. And when he talks about it, he was on Meet the Press recently and was a little bit more reasonable personally, but policy is the policy, and he's from a state that is extremely restrictive.
Welcome back.
Thank you,
Jessica. All right.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.